The Noids could be hiding anywhere! Watch out! They're coming out of the rubble! Dropships! Waste those Tyrannoids! Open! Watch out! Destroy that vehicle!
We're losing this.
Sarge, you're just in time. We must defend the presidential palace. The Noids are dropping in reinforcements. Secure. Nice work, ladies. Let's move out. Sarge, cover those Rangers. If we lose the whole squad, it's all over. Incoming! those enemy dropships. The sauces are just icing on the cake. Greet 'em! Let it happen, Sarge! Covering fire! This is the last wave, Sarge. Don't give those bus buckets an inch. Nice shooting, Sarge. We can take it from here. Protect the repair crew. We need that turret back online. Keep them off our backs. We'll have this baby back up in no time. Covering fire! We've got to protect the repair crew! Keep it up. The repairs are almost finished. Repairs are finished. Now we'll give those Noids a take. The Noids have launched an all-out assault. We need those air defenses online yesterday. Those turrets can only target aircraft. You'll need to handle the ground troops yourself. Noids are throwing everything they got at us.
Agent! Old-timers say a giant robotic space eel haunts this ship. What a pleasure!
Push the button to flip the side.
Hey, be sure to catch me next week at the Piranha Demolition Derby!
This little guy can really move!
Oh man, this job is too much fun!
He could go all the way!
Look at those beady little eyes. He's got that 1,000-yard stare. Now it's time to get down and dirty for a lowdown showdown. He's got sharp teeth too. He bites. He sure got his bell rung
The trigger belong back.
I don't. Come back anytime to compete for.
If anybody finds a star...
Incoming. Skip.
Well,
Pantheon, I'm like a girl! Faster! Keep going, you Pantheon, I'm like a girl! Faster! Keep going, you Pantheon, I'm like a girl! Faster! Hurry up, Lumbex! That was okay, I guess. Ha! That was pathetic!
Glad to see you, Sarge. The Noids are getting ready for a major attack against our base. Incoming! Enemy aircraft! The Noids are dropping in reinforcements! Incoming saucers! Look out! The Noids are coming across the bridge! Fire wheel! Looks like the Noids had had enough! Congratulations, Sarge! You sure lived up. Let's go, Sarge. We've got orders to neutralize the enemy forces guarding that ridge. The Noids are dropping troops behind us! We're surrounded! Run for your lives! The Noids are storming the bridge! I don't want to die! Objective secure. We've captured the bridge. Sarge, somebody needs to get behind those Noids and take them out. We've got orders to attack the enemy base and wipe these slime suckers off the planet! Let's move! Roger that! Heads up! Enemy saucers! Sarge, we're getting pounded by enemy saucers! We need backup! Whoa! That was some fancy shooting, Sarge! Incoming! Let me count! This is a big one! That's the last of them. Blackwater City is being secured.
the button to flip the side.
Hey, be sure to catch me next week at the Florana Demolition Derby.
This little guy can really move.
Oh, man, this job is too much fun.
He could go all the way. How about that, folks?
Oh, man, this job is too much fun.
That was close.
Hey, be sure to catch me next.
Push the button to flip the side. This is gonna be exciting.
Oh, man, this job.
Push the button to flip the side.
Oh, yeah, that's entertainment, folks.
This little guy can really move. That was close.
Oh, man, this job is too much fun. Hey, be sure to catch me next week at the Florana Demolition Derby.
Wow! Note to self, never mess with a trigger-happy long. Push the button to flip the side. He could go all the way. How about that, folks?
We call this one the sleeper round. The Lombax better be able to hold his breath.
Push the button to flip the side.
Oh, man, this job is too much fun.
This little guy can really move.
Look at those speedy little eyes. He's got that 1,000-yard stare.
This little guy can really move.
Hey, be sure to catch me next week at the Piranha Demolition Derby.
Oh, this is gonna be exciting. Wow! Note to self, never mess with a trigger-happy Lombax. Push the button to flip the side.
Oh, man. This job is too much fun.
A good go.
Now it's time to get down and dirty for a lowdown showdown. Cheap material, folks. Ever wonder what a shaved Lombax looks like? Let's find out! Positively shocking! Okay, folks. Hey, luck of the draw! I'm now pulling a ticket stub out of my hat. Let's get ready to rampage!
Push the button to flip the side. Hey, be sure to catch me next week at the Piranha Demolition Derby! Now it's time to get down and dirty for
All right, this is the part where you take out the henchman, then chase Maximilian out of the bar. Try to make it look real, all right? Action! Okay, Clank is hot on his tail. Maximilian tries to shake him off in rush hour traffic. All right, I love a good chase scene. All right, you're doing great, kid. Now, avoid the lasers and meet up with the monkey in the casino parking lot. In this scene, Agent Clank and the monkey must put aside their differences and work together to reach that ledge. Let's see some real emotion out there, okay? The bridge is out. Think fast. How would Agent Clank get across? One more time, people, like we rehearsed it. And action! Okay, Clank is hot on his tail. Maximilian tries to shake him off in rush hour traffic. All right, I love a good chase scene. All right, you're doing great, kid. Now, avoid the lasers and meet up with the monkey in the casino parking lot. In this scene, Agent Clank and the monkey must put aside their differences and work together to reach that ledge. Let's see some real emotion out there, okay? The bridge is out. Think fast. How would Agent Clank get across? Okay, this is it, people. The grand finale, Giant Clank versus the Terror of Talos. Don't screw this up, kid. Action! That's what I'm talking about! All right, you, the Giant Ninjas! Zed Clank! Kick some... Good! Check the gate, put it in the can, and it's a wrap. Take 5, people.
Looked like it hurt. All right. Oops, I did it again.
one.
Welcome to the Zelgrin Star.
It is I, Dr. Nefarious!
Good. Different about you. Wait, don't tell me. You've changed your hair.
Lawn Ninja defense system activated.
Captain Quark is here.
kill me.